Hello Distingo Ultra Beta testers. This is just well, it was intended to be a quick video, but it might go on a bit, just to show you what the beta currently looks like. A lot of this could change. At the moment I'm using texture atlases. This scene at the moment, by the way, is I'm just using the regular Unity shader at the moment, just to show you what it looks like before I switch Distingo Ultra on. This is obviously already set up with a load of textures and everything. I'll show you how to set up a terrain later on. I just wanted to show you what it currently looks like with it all set up, so you can get an idea of what it's trying to do. So it's still got what Distingo uses, which is the near and far UV values, to be able to try and cut down on the amount of tiling that we get in our textures on the terrain. But as well as that, I've tried to, well, have added in tessellation. So that basically means all the geometry on the terrain gives us more triangles, some more detail, but obviously with that comes the cost of render speed as well. So obviously the more tessellation or level of tessellation you have on, the harder that's going to hit the GPU, because obviously it's more geometry to render, but you get a much better look and a much more detail from your terrain textures. And along with that, with the tessellation, we've also got displacement. So using the height maps that come with the textures, I can then raise that newly created tessellated geometry off the surface to give us lumps and bumps and to give us that detail. I've also added in height-based texture blending as well. At the moment on the regular shader, you can see there's no height map blending at all. It's all just based on the values in the splat map, which we can see there. So that's what the regular terrain looks like. So Distingo, basically what you can do is, we've got terrain settings, and when you initialize put it on your terrain for the first time, it'll turn your terrain black because it hasn't got any of the textures. So we get all the terrain textures. So that'll pull from whatever you've got set up on that terrain all the textures out, and it will build the splat maps and the atlases ready for it to be used. We can also reset, rebake them, and all sorts of other stuff, but I'll show you that in a minute. So let's have a look at what it actually looks like as it renders. So this is the current Unity render. So it's not regular Distingo, it's just basic good old-fashioned Unity render, terrain render. So if I switch on the terrain now, so if I hit I think it was the T key I've got set up. So right, so this is what Distingo Ultra does. So as you can see down here, there's a lot more detail in the rocks and the textures now. I've even got on here fourth, fifth texture blended into the terrain, when it's got emissive as well, so you can have emissive textures now on the terrain. So if you've got, I don't know, lava flows or whatever else you want to have going on, then you can use the emissive in that. So I've got on here a few, so there's a depth of field effect, image effect, there's a bloom, and there's not a lens flare, ambient occlusion. So as you can see, that we've got these lovely bumps, and the rock actually comes out looking like rock rather than just a flat bit of texture. Obviously this mesh isn't particularly brilliant that I've got for the terrain. It's a bit jaggedy in places because I rushed creating the terrain. But yeah, so that gives you kind of an idea of, so we can jump down, and as you can tell, the render rate's pretty good. If we do it like a comparison, it's probably not optimum. I'll try and see if I can get any quicker, but so we're getting what's 30, well, about 30 FPS on average throughout the scene. If I flip that back to regular, where mind you, we're not that far off, are we? So there's not much difference. I guess you're losing about, so I reckon that's about averaging about 40 there, say 50. It's not a massive difference, but it is a much more expensive shader, as you can imagine, on the GPU. So yeah, so that's kind of what it does. It gets your terrain and that looking a lot more detailed, I think. A lot of these shadow artifacts are from the ambient occlusion. Let's get rid of that for now. So some of the technical issues I've got is at the moment, when generating normal maps, we have to do a bit of you guys will have to actually set it as a normal map and re-push it back into the control, and also every now and then, depending on the texture, because we're using atlases. A bit of a jerk there because I'm obviously recording at the same time. Because we've got these atlases, we end up with seams, but it depends on the texture. You can't, on this rock, I've not seen any, but I think if we go up to there's no seams there. They're looking pretty good actually in this one, but you can get seams in the terrain textures because of the atlases. I'm going to put that back on because I think it looks quite cool, even though it gives us some funny textures sometimes. Yeah, so basically let's, I know where we can go. I've put a bit of, bear with me while I run over to a bit of an island where I've put some coal so I can demonstrate some of the height blending and how you can adjust it. Actually, I could probably do it here. So where we've got this grass and these this rock texture, so what we can do is we can go to the particular texture. So we'll go for the stone, select the texture, and then from here I can control all the aspects of that texture channel. So the base UV multiplier is basically how much that texture's tiled against the whole of the terrain. So that's the base texture multiplier, and then you've got the same Distingo max modifiers for up close and distant. You've got the normal multipliers as well, just like before, which again can be done real time. Same with the occlusion, we can drop the occlusion up, bring it up and off. Actually, I can see a slight seam there, so that's what I mean by the seams. Yeah, and then we've got the height blend multiplier. So the height blend multiplier and the displacement multiplier, they're acting on the height maps, but they operate in different ways. So the height blend is basically how strong it blends with the other textures. So if we look at this grass, if I drop this off, the grass will come up because it's a greater height. Yeah, so we've got stones mixing in with the grass and stuff, which is quite cool. So you can get all sorts of nice effects from just that height blending. And then the displacement multiplier, you'll watch these little rocks now as we bring that up. Yeah, so it makes them bigger and smaller based on whatever we've got, and that's per texture layer. And of course we can alter the emissive and metallic if we've got any set, but we haven't got any set. But we've also got a master level displacement within the tessellation options. So displacement at the moment is set at 1, so global tessellation to 2 to 5, everything starts getting a bit big and spiky. To 10 gets ridiculous. You can have that as big as or as small as you like, but as you can see you can get some pretty funky effects. We've also got tessellation levels, edge length, and these I'll explain later on. The shader can actually be run against regular geometry as well, so not just terrain. So I could drop this on a plane, which I'll show you in the next section actually. So I'm going to try and do, actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause it, I'm going to run over there because you're not really going to want me to see me running about all over the shop. So while I've got the ability to stop time for you, I'll do it. See you in a bit. So I've basically ran over to this island here where I knew I'd put some burning coals. So this is just to show that the emissive, I've just switched the shader over. No, I haven't. I thought I did. What was it for the light? Maybe. Oh yes, I've switched the scene's light off. So now we've got, obviously where we've got an emissive texture, we've got the light coming out of that. Now I'm investigating and seeing if I can set it up with global illumination as well. So obviously then, if I can, that'd be pretty cool, because then these will be actually emitting light and bouncing off other objects. Whereas at the moment it's just an emissive texture, so that's not it's not actually emitting light at the moment. But as I say, we can again go into the settings on this, and we can set the emissive power. So we can turn the, and again this is per channel, per texture channel, not globally. Yeah, so we can set that to whatever we like. We can set the modifier, if it's massive, tiny if you want really big coals, and again that's per channel. Right, and again I think I can see, yeah, there's a little seam there, so these are the things I want to try and get rid of before releasing the beta, if I can. Yeah, okay, so that's pretty much that. What I'm going to do next then, in the next clip, is show you how to set it up and get it working. Yeah, I think it looks pretty cool, especially compared to the Unity shader. It is using, when I'm flipping back to Unity, it's using the textures that are baked onto the terrain, whereas these are the ones I've set up in. But you can tell this rock texture is the same texture, the sand isn't. And yeah, I think it looks much better with my shader. So yeah, so that'll be the next thing we look at, is setting it up.